Hey guys, thanks for coming out today. And today is about Chinese nutritional therapy. Some great info to help you figure out how to use Chinese nutritional therapy for yourself. And almost all the nutrition information we share in the West is about weight. How many calories in our food, how to count calories, how to eat processed food to lose weight, right? Because how many of you have grabbed those shakes, protein bars to help lose weight, myself included? And besides losing weight every once in a while, there's a brief tidbit on other health concerns like reducing your water weight by eating less salt, improving your heart health by consuming olive oil, and eating more crucifers to help reduce cancer. But when it comes to eating and meal planning, all that focus is on losing weight. And then the problem is, as soon as you stop whatever meal plan or product you were using to lose weight, you start gaining the weight right back. Using Chinese nutritional therapy to choose foods to eat avoids the meal plan and the calorie counter. Two things that have you negatively thinking about food. And instead, Chinese nutritional therapy avoids the meal plan, skips over the calorie counting to introduce you to your body's amazing interaction with food, and not from a negative sense. So, Chinese nutritional therapy aims to select foods to correct health conditions and keep your body in balance. So, here's an example. Chinese nutritional therapy might look at eczema and suggest eating mung bean soup for a few days to reduce the eczema, or drinking ginger tea to help eliminate that sensation of cold in the body. The focus isn't on what the food contains, like how many proteins, fats, carbohydrates, how many calories. The focus is on what the food does in the body. And guess what? As you get older, what food does in the body, you're much more aware of it because you start getting sensitive to everything. But hey, let's look at chicken from a Western perspective versus a Chinese nutritional therapy perspective. So in the West, a 3.5 ounce chicken breast contains 165 calories with 31 grams of protein and about 4 grams of fat. And if you were meal planning in the West, you would focus on the calories and figure out what else you could eat and still be under your max calorie intake. Okay, and a 4-ounce serving of pork chops contains about 193 calories with 24 grams of protein and 11 grams of fat. So, if you have 200 calories available, you could eat either the chicken breast or the pork chop. And if you were reducing your fat intake, you would choose the chicken. But in Chinese nutritional therapy, one would be a better option based on what happens in your body when you eat it, besides gaining or losing weight. So let's say you went through a long illness and you were trying to recover. So how could you eat to rebuild your energy? Between the chicken and pork, you would want to choose the pork chop because in Chinese medicine, pork helps rebuild the qi of the body or your core energy. And qi is one of the 2 ingredients you need to create and maintain life. Without qi, there's no life. So check out my episode on the power of yin and yang, part 1, the creation of life, to learn more about qi and its impact on life. But let's say you've been feeling a little bit bloated and your stomach has been upset. Then you might want to choose a chicken over the pork because the chicken is a bland food that helps strengthen the earth elements or the stomach and the spleen, and it helps drain fluids from the body. So there, it helps reduce bloating and helps strengthen your stomach. Here's another example. You've been out in the snow all day and you're cold, well, you're going to want to consume something that's going to warm you up and fortify you. What about a cup of hot chocolate? Now, that sounds so much more tempting than a glass of iced tea. Yet, if this was a summer day and you had been out mowing the lawn and you were hot and tired, a glass of iced tea sounds great and a lot more inviting than a cup of hot chocolate, which doesn't sound good at all. When I talk about the effect something has on the body, iced tea on a hot day sounds cool. And in Chinese nutritional therapy, tea does have a cooling effect on the body, whereas milk has this warming and fortifying effect on the body. So you can look at your health conditions and choose foods that can help improve your health or keep you into balance or bring you back to balance. Now, remember, health in Chinese medicine doesn't stop at the physical symptoms. Health also includes your emotional and spiritual outlook. When you're choosing foods to keep yourself in a healthy balance, Chinese nutritional therapy has some guidelines. First, the preference is to eat foods in the proper season, and second is to eat foods from where you live. Now, I'm going to talk about eating foods in the proper season in another episode, so let's talk about eating foods from where you live. You eat foods grown in your region because they have the proper energetics and harmony to live in your area. A lime tree doesn't grow in the Midwest because it needs a temperate and warm climate. It's out of harmony with the Midwest region. And you can see part of this concept by looking at invasive species. Invasive species come from another region. They have few, if any, natural predators in this new region, and they can exploit the environment. Cheatgrass. It's an invasive species introduced in the late 1800s from Europe, and it is now throughout the United States. And one of the problems with cheatgrass is it doesn't have any nutrition. So for the wildlife like elk and deer, if they were left to eat only cheatgrass, they would starve. So if here in the Pacific Northwest, if we didn't feed the elk and deer, the lack of native grass would probably cause severe starvation in these herds. So that's the concept of eating foods from your local region. The foods from the local area, they're going to be adapted to the region and they're going to support the region. But don't get me wrong, I do eat foods from other areas. Guidelines are not about perfection. Guidelines are a recommendation. And thank goodness, because I am not giving up chocolate. The other guideline is eating food that supports the movement of the season, and it's based on 5-element theory. Not only is 5-element theory the foundation for foods, but it's also the foundation for herbs. So I'm going to do another episode on how to identify foods for the seasons. And again, these are just guidelines. You don't have to pick every one of the foods from one season, because the last part of Chinese nutritional therapy is balance. Eating only foods from one season will weigh you too heavy to one season and throw you out of balance. So the basic concepts in Chinese nutritional therapy: first, you're eating foods to keep your health in balance. Like I mentioned earlier, let's say you get flare-ups of hot, itchy eczema every so often. Well, when that happens, you're out of balance and may want to try eating some mung bean soup for a couple days. Second, sure, keeping your health in balance is a goal of Chinese nutritional therapy, but to do that, sometimes you have to address different health symptoms. Chinese nutritional therapy accomplishes this by understanding the effects food has on the body, like how iced tea cools the body, or how you might crave a candy bar when you're stressed, because in Chinese nutritional therapy, sugar relaxes the liver, and anything that relaxes the liver relieves stress. Third, How the effects of food are identified is through 5-element theory. This theory brings together classification systems that help categorize food. And fourth, lastly, there is this concept of harmony in Taoism, balancing your life and your environment. To help maintain that harmony, you want to use as many foods as possible from the region you live in. And that is Chinese nutritional therapy in a nutshell. And the focus isn't on weight loss, it's on staying in balance. But you know what? I will talk to you about Chinese nutritional therapy and weight loss in my next food recipe episode, because even though Chinese nutritional therapy isn't focused on weight loss, the key health issue that we have in the West is weight or obesity. So stay tuned for my next food recipe episode, because I will focus on foods that Chinese nutritional therapy would use to lose weight, talk about why they're essential, and how Chinese medicine sees obesity. Okay, guys, until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.